Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to go through a little bit of some more information about Ruby. What we're going to cover today is class methods, aliasing, and just going to jump right into it. So what we're going to do is just try to define a couple of things. So last time, this is what we went through. And we had learned about our variables, our different types, local, instance, and globals. And so what we used here was this here is called a method, and here is our down here we actually previously had myClass.high, which is just calling that method. So we're going to go a little bit more over classes. We're going to actually go back through some of the default classes so that we can try to understand some of the methods that they have available for us, so that when we get to actually creating our own scripts, we know what things we've got available to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back here into the window base script. So in the window base script, we've got our class here of obviously window base, which is a subclass, or it is a child class of window. And we'll get a little bit more into creating subclasses here and what the reasons for that are. What we're going to do is we're just going to take a look here at a couple of the methods that we've got available in here, and then I'll show you how to use those in your own window, and we'll create that at the end of this tutorial. So first off, inside of here, we're just going to notice that we've got a large number of methods. Here you can see we've got methods here that simply return a text color, or actually better yet, they actually call another method called text color, and that is right here, and it says, well, whatever number is provided, then figure out an XY and get that value from your window skin. So that's actually determined by your window skin. So we're just going to skip on past all of that. We've got draw icons, draw faces. All of these methods here are used to help us construct a window that may have information about our actors, or just or help us draw something easier. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back and we're going to create ourselves a window, and we're going to use this window we're going to use this window to display some information here. So I'm just going to create this one here. We're just going to call it tutorial 1 so that it's out of the way. But tutorial 2. Alright, so on this one we're going to create a class. This class is, we're going to call it window mine. Mine. And we're going to make this a subclass of window base. Now the reason to make this a subclass is because we want to inherit all of the functions that window base has in our methods, so that we can make simple callbacks to its methods. So basically, when we have a method that's defined in window base, we can call it and any instance variables that are in window base in window mine, because it's a subclass of it, at any time. This allows us to basically build a class, and then we can actually build subclasses that contain all of that same information. I know I'm kind of rambling that on, but it's very important to understand that, because there is a very big proportion of all of the scripts inside of here that actually use these. I mean, your game system, game message don't, but once you get down into the windows, every single one of these inherits from either window base or window selectable, and there's a reason behind that. That's because that window base has all of your base commands for color, drawing the actor data and whatnot, but window selectable has all your flashing cursor, all of that stuff to determine how many items you have in the window, and to automatically calculate their distance between each other based upon how many items there are, how many columns, etc. So we don't have to really think about that stuff, and so it's very handy to have those available. Even our scenes themselves inherit from another class specifically called scene base. And this here just basically gives us some very basic methods of start, transition, etc., that we can call in our subclasses, or our subscenes in this case, to be able to really be able to inherit and add on to these methods, which in this case here are empty, but it allows us to plug in our own information, as this is just a template. So right here, this is something we don't have in Windows, or not Windows, but in RPG Maker XP, is this snapshot for background. This here is when you open a scene or whatnot, you can say, hey, take a picture of the background before you open, so that then it'll just display that as our background image. So it's actually quite nice. You don't have to go and call a sprite set map or whatever like you normally would in XP in order to get that same effect. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to go ahead and create a class. We're going to say, we're going to initialize it. So this is, again, the first method that's ever run on a window. And we're just going to call it with the super value, and the super value is the x and y coordinates that you want it to actually generate. So we're just going to say 0 and 0, so it's going to be in the upper left-hand corner. And we're going to specify that it can be 320 pixels wide and 240 tall. Okay, once we've got that, we'll go ahead and close. Now, the reason we call super is it says, well, call the window base, or its parent version of it. If we go back up to window base and look at its initialize method, we can see here that it requires x, y, width, and height, and then it will go through and do its own initialize. So that's why we provided it now an x, y, width, and height. So technically right now our window will generate, but it's not going to have any contents on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to draw a actor name. So what we're going to do is go back and look up the method that we want to draw. So we're just going to type in draw in the find here. It's not an icon. And you know what? We can do a face. Let's see, there should be a draw actor face in here. Draw actor. Actor face. Here we are. Alright, so it is draw actor face. We specify the x and y within the window that we want to draw it, the size in which the picture should automatically size to, and the actor has to be supplied in its entirety. So we're going to go back over here and paste that in, since we don't actually have to provide it. And we're going to set an actor here. So we're going to say actor equals game actors, and we're going to give it the first actor in the database, which in the default case is Ralph. So game actors is a global variable. We're going to be setting its value, or its return value, in this case the first character within its set, and it's going to be a local variable of actor. Okay, we then go ahead and say draw actor face, which is a method of window base, and we're going to set an x and y here, and we're going to say 5 and 50. Okay, now this here will set the value of x to 5 and the value of y to 50. Okay, now the last thing to note here is that when we were looking at window base in the initialize, or I'm sorry, not in the initialize, but in the argument selections that you have, so that's what this is back here when we look at it. This here is the arguments that it accepts. So it takes 4 arguments. It's actor, x, y, and then the size. Now this equal 96 means that it's an optional argument. So I could pass it just 3 and it would be perfectly happy, and it would go at the default size of 96. That's generally the best way to actually assume it is that this is a default value if 1 is not provided. So we'll go back down, and we're not going to specify a different size, so we're just going to remove that off since we don't actually need it. Okay, now we called it window mine, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that to the clipboard. And then we are going to create a new scene here real quick since we still have a little bit of time. We're going to call this one scene mine, and that is going to be part of scene base. Okay? Inside of this, we're going to adjust the start method. All we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit to it. Now remember that scene base, when we looked at it, the start method had nothing in it, so we don't actually need to worry about adding anything there. So we're just going to say start, and we're going to set a window within here. We're going to call my window, and we're going to set that equal to window mine. And we're going to create a new variation of it, so or a new instance of it. So that's actually all we need to do with it. Next, we actually have to update the window so that it refreshes. Although we're not going to actually be doing anything with that yet, we'll go ahead and put it in here. And then the last part is the terminate, or as it's breaking it down, we need to dispose this window. So we otherwise it stays on the screen even though you've already finished. So we'll go ahead and say mywindow.dispose, and we should be all good. So now we've got a base scene. This scene will open up on an entirely blank screen, and we will have a just this window with actor 1's face on it. Okay. Now before we actually finish, we need to have a method of breaking out of the scene. So we're going to actually add a if input dot trigger question mark input colon C, which is the default input, your space bar, enter, etc. Then we will go ahead and recall the scene. So we'll say scene equals scene map dot new. Okay, we'll go ahead and apply that and grab the scene name here. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to change our event here, and we're going to go ahead and remove all of this code here and paste in scene equals scene mine dot new. Alright, let's go ahead and play this. Alright, we still got our previous code in there, so it's still doing that. I'm going to just say new game. That's going to take us to our map here, and when we talk to this lady, it's going to take us to the separate scene with our picture, and then if I press the enter button here again, it's just going to go back, and that's that. Now if we want to get a little bit more fancy, we can actually come in here and say sound.play decision, and it will play our decision sound. And we can even put if input.trigger input colon B. B is the cancel, the standard cancel or escape, etc. So we're going to say sound.play cancel, and then we're still going to transfer out of the scene. Or you know what, we'll actually just stay in the scene. We'll say return. Now what return does is it says as soon as I hit this, then go back to the top and return nothing. So in the case of update, we don't have anything watching its input. So we're going to just return, and if we don't specify anything, then it automatically returns nil. We don't actually have to put nil on it, but it works that way. So we'll go and try it one more time, and this time we should hear sounds when we do that. So we're going to get a decision sound and a cancel sound. And then obviously, because we didn't say go back to the menu, it stays here in the cancel or in the scene. So that pretty much covers it for now. We'll come back, we'll actually do a little bit more. Next time we're going to go a little bit further into menuing. I didn't get to aliasing this time, but we'll go over that next time. So just hang tight and we'll get there. See you guys.